Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I'm bringing you, somewhat delayed, my January TBR. So the day that I'm filming this is actually the 12th of January. So January's almost halfway over, but I haven't done one of these videos in a long time just because of the stress of the holidays and just being a little stressed out by pulling all these books off of my shelf and then putting them back on. I just really did not want to do a wrap-up or a TBR video for a while, but I'm back into it, and I thought since I've only read 2 books this month so far, I might as well tell you what I want to read. So I have 14 books here, and I've split them up into books that I already owned or received for Christmas, library books, and then I have some advanced copies from publishers here as well. So I'm going to start with the advanced copies. So all of these books come out in either January or February. 2 of them have actually already been released, so I'm a little bit behind, but I am trying to catch up. So the first book that has been actually already released here in the UK is The Fandom by Anna Day. So I got this as a proof from Yelk in July, so I've had my hands on this for a while and I just haven't had the chance to read it. So The Fandom follows a group of friends who are all mega fans of this, I guess, film franchise called The Gallows Dance, and they've all dressed up. They're all cosplayers, they're going to this event, and some sort of thing happens and they are transported into the world of the Gallows Dance, which, depending on what you are a fan of, that's either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. I am suspecting that it is the latter. So I've been hearing really good things about this book and I am really excited to read it. However, I just had it in my mind that it publishes so far away from now that it's actually already published and I haven't read it yet. So this is a priority for me. I'm really looking forward to getting to this one soon. So next up I have the second book that has actually just published here in the UK, and that is Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. So these 2 ladies are both actually YouTubers. They're people I subscribe to but I don't really watch because I'm terrible actually at watching YouTube videos, ironically. But I have been really looking forward to this book because it's basically about lady space pirate gang. That sounds awesome. I've heard some mixed things about this book so far, so I'm really looking forward to getting my own opinion on it and diving into a new world. I love sci-fi and I read mostly adult sci-fi. I just haven't really had the chance to be exposed to much young adult sci-fi, so this is going to be a really good one. So next up is actually one of my current reads, and that is Paris Adrift by E.J. Swift. So this is a very strange and surreal read, and I kind of go through phases where I'm either really enjoying it or not so much. It just really depends on what's happening in the book at the time. So Paris Adrift is about Hayley, and she is a British girl and she has fled her past in the UK. For whatever reason, we don't know at this point, and she's gone to Paris and she gets a job in a bar, a very infamous bar, and it's all about sort of the people who are working with her, but also about time travel. There's a time travel anomaly that is in this bar and she is the person who is connected with it. So she's kind of trying to survive her regular life, sort of not necessarily on the run, but as an outcast, sort of rebuilding her life, but also there's this strange sci-fi thing that's going on. And again, there are parts of it that I'm really enjoying, there are parts of it that I'm kind of like, unsure. But I am about 116 pages in, so that's not very far. So I am looking forward to continuing this. I'm picking it up and putting it down. I'm not going through it very quickly, unfortunately. So the next book on my list is actually probably my most highly anticipated book of the year, or at least of the first half of the year. And I'm really thankful to have gotten a copy of this book, and I really cannot wait to get started. So that is The Bells by Danielle Clayton. So from what I know, this book is about this sort of almost dystopian world where beauty is a very sought after commodity, and there are these people called bells who can essentially change your appearance and make you look beautiful. So our main character is looking to become the kind of court belle that would serve the royal family, and of course I'm sure once she gets there, chaos ensues, lots of intrigue, and things are not necessarily what they appear. I'm really looking forward to this. There's been so much hype surrounding this book, and I'm really hoping that that doesn't ruin it for me. I don't think it will because there's not been a lot of people reading it so far. So I want to read it early. I want to kind of get it out of the way before a lot of reviews and things come in, because this is a book that I think is going to be really fantastic. There's been a lot of bullshit that the author has had to go through recently, just sort of in the media, about sensitivity reading. So I really want to support her, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one. So next up, we've got library books. So there are actually 2 library books that I've already read this month, and they are the only 2 books that I've read this month. One of them I have, one of them I've already returned. So I am finishing up the Selection series by Kira Cass. I read The Elite, and so the one is the last in this trilogy. This is the best way that I can kind of describe the Selection. You know how everyone was watching A Christmas Prince and talking about how, like, terrible but also amazing it was because it's so bad it's good? That's how I feel about this. It's not a good series of books. It's not a particularly well written series of books. The main character is kind of a biatch and she's really nasty, but she's supposed to be this amazing, incredible person. You know, it's got a love triangle where there's one guy who really sucks and one guy who's significantly better than the other. Like, it's basically, I say trashy, and I hate the word trashy, particularly to describe books, especially books that are aimed at women, because I feel that happens a lot. But trashy, love it, it's amazing. So it's kind of like the equivalent of watching A Christmas Prince with a glass of wine and screaming at the TV. I'm really, really enjoying this series. So the world of The Selection is kind of this dystopian America, and there's a caste system where the sort of people at the very top are the royal family, and it goes all the way down through the number 8, so it's 1 through 8, and the people at the bottom are essentially homeless. They don't have a caste, so they are 8s. So this book follows America Singer, who, guess where she's from and guess what her talent is. But she is selected to be part of The Selection, which is essentially a reality TV series where the crown prince of this new, not America, but America, will pick his wife. And it's ridiculous and it's so fun and I'm really, really enjoying it because honestly, sometimes you need a little bit of fluff in your life and these books are perfect for that. So the next 2 books are the first and second in another series, and I have been hearing this name everywhere and I honestly thought it was a TV show. I had never heard of these books before. I think they were big in the UK but not necessarily in the US, or maybe I just completely missed them. But I saw them in the library with my friend and she was like, you gotta read these books. So I've got Lockwood Co, The Screaming Staircase, and I have The Whispering Skull. So these are by Jonathan Stroud. So the Lockwood books are about a sort of, it feels very present day Britain. However, the problem has happened, and I love that so much. It feels so British. But there's the problem that occurred 60, 70, however many years ago. It's a little bit nebulous, but essentially, the country became overrun with ghosts. So people have had to change their lifestyles. No one goes out at night, there's a curfew, places are haunted, and there is, of course, a whole industry that pops up. So you have ghost hunters. So the thing that I love about this book, which is about one of these ghost hunting agencies, is that it's a young adult, but it makes sense that it's young adult. So in this book, as happens with many series and TV shows and whatnot about ghosts, young people can see them, and older people very much less so, depending on the power of that particular ghost. So these people are kids, because the kids are the ones who can actually fight the ghosts. Like, this all makes so much sense. It makes so much more sense than some of these worlds where I'm like, kind of feels YA because you want to sell into a YA market, not because it fits the story. So I read The Screaming Staircase, and I really, really loved it. There is so much about these books that I feel tackles a lot of the tropes in YA that I particularly hate. The, you know, unattractive girl who's so convinced that she's unattractive, see The Selection series, but is really just so beautiful. No, our main character, Lucy, she's like, I am a very unattractive person. And then she never thinks about it again. And she's not like some hidden beauty or whatever. She's generally just an average looking girl. But she never dwells on it. She never thinks about it. In this first book, there's no romance. There's a little bit of a crush, but there's no romance, no romantic subplot, and there's actual like friendships between boys and girls, and it's a really, really nice thing to see because I feel like we rarely see that in YA. These books are also, to be honest, just really well written. They're really, really well written. He tells the story in a really interesting way, and I feel like these are perfect for people who don't necessarily like YA and are kind of put off by a lot of the tropes that everyone knows are in YA. They're just good fun, and they're actually quite scary as well. So my last library book is actually one that I started, couldn't really get into. I don't know, I might give it another chance because I only read a few pages, but it wasn't one that immediately grabbed me, and I was in the mood for something that was going to be like, ah, yes. So I ended up going with Lockwood, which was a good choice. But this is The Final Girls by Riley Sager. So this book follows a woman who has been the very near victim of a horrible, horrible group murder. Basically, all of her friends were killed. We don't really know what's happened at the beginning of the book, but we know that she is a survivor of this horrible thing that had happened, and she was very nearly killed, but she was rescued at the last minute. She is a member of this sort of unofficial group called the Final Girls, which is two other women who are also have been in this situation. They've survived some horrific murder, usually where a bunch of other people got killed instead. And so the book opens, and she's kind of has pulled her life back together, but she finds out that one of the girls of the Final Girls group has committed suicide. But you find out that someone, this is on the jacket flap, this is not spoilers, I haven't even gotten to this part yet, someone is coming after the Final Girls and killing them. I don't know, I just couldn't really get into it. I might pull this off my TBR, but I might give it another shot. We'll see. So next up is the last category. So this is books that I either already owned or got for Christmas. These are just books that I pulled off of my shelf. So first up is another current read, and it's a book that I'm really loving, but I'm reading quite slowly, and that is Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. I have always loved him ever since I discovered him. What I love about him is that he is obviously incredibly intelligent. He's an astrophysicist, but he also makes things like astrophysics accessible to people like me who are really, really interested but just don't have the right type of brain to be a scientist. I would be an astronomer if my brain functioned that way, but sadly it doesn't, so I stick with science fiction and books like this. Astrophysics for People in a Hurry is a book that breaks down a lot of sort of the theories behind astrophysics in a really consumable way. It's very, very short, and it's broken into many different chapters. There may be like 10 to 15 pages each, and it's really, as I said, very consumable. And so I'm reading this very slowly, which is the way that it was intended to be read, and I'm really, really loving it. The next book is a book that I have actually been wanting to read for a really long time, but I've really struggled to find in the UK in bookshops, and I tend to do almost all of my book shopping in actual stores. I much prefer it to online. However, couldn't find this one, so I asked for it for Christmas, and Scottish Fiancé, who's better at online shopping than me, got it for me, so thank you very much. But this is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa, oh my goodness, Bashadoust? Bashadoust. I apologize. Girls Made of Snow and Glass is basically a Snow White retelling with a lesbian relationship. Cool. I just really love retellings. So why not? I'm really looking forward to this. I've been, like I said, been wanting this for a long time. Would have read it ages ago if I could get my hands on it here. Next up is a book that I've been meaning to read for so long that I didn't realize is actually part of a series now. When I first heard about it and wanted to read it, it was just one book, and I had assumed it was a standalone. And now there are many, many more. So that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This book has been out for a while. It is, let's see, it was published in 2012. 2012! This has been on my wish list for a really long time. So I got it for myself, and I am hell-bent on reading it. And now that I know that there are other books in this series, I am super excited. So The Diviners is set in like 1920s New York, and it's all about the occult, and I think there's like ghost hunting, demon hunting, supernaturally goodness, and it sounds amazing. This sounds like my catnip, to be perfectly honest. I don't know much about it. It is a little bit longer than a lot of the books that are on this list. It's almost 600 pages, and I love a long book, so bring it on. I meant to read this last year, and I spent like the last of my book budget for that particular month on this book. I can't believe I haven't read it yet. Oh god. But that is A Skinful of Shadows by Frances Hardinge. So Frances Hardinge wrote The Lie Tree, which is one of my favorite books ever. It is a fantastic book, and you should read it if you have not. But this is her newest one, and it not only has this beautiful cover. Ooh, look at that. Okay, and also look at this. I've done this before on a different video, but look at this. So not only is it a beautiful book, it's really incredible, it sounds absolutely fantastic and fascinating. It sounds like the kind of very weird, surreal, sort of on the edges of dreams and reality type of book that I know Frances Hardinge does very, very well. So the very last book on my TBR is actually the December Fairy Loot book. So this is Everless by Sarah Holland. So Everless is a fantasy world in which time is a currency. So the very wealthy live for a very, very long time and the very poor sadly do not. I don't know much about this one, except it has a fantastic cover. Look at that. It looks really, really cool. It has, check this out, it has end papers. Love me some good end papers. And you know what? I've heard really, really good things about this. I've heard it's really fast-paced, I've heard it's really interesting, and I've heard that people who don't necessarily like fantasy are really enjoying this. I, of course, love fantasy, so I'm expecting to really like this one a lot. That is my January TBR, about midway through the month by the time that this post will go up, but that's okay. So I realize that this TBR is late, but let me know what you're planning on reading in January. Let me know if there's anything that you have read this month that you've particularly liked. If you have any of these books on your TBR, if you've read any of these books before, definitely let me know. I would really love to hear from you. So I'm going to be back on track with TBR videos and monthly wrap-ups, so if you're interested in those kinds of videos, definitely subscribe. I try to post at least once a week, sometimes more if you're lucky. I've got the reading vlogs coming back, so definitely subscribe, see what comes up next, and I will see you next time.